mine all as one letter, so I'll just read the first part of it. I did a little intro and then I've got 5 sections. From June 1999 to June 2099. Dear person of the future, I'm writing to tell you about some things that I have experienced that are different from the common beliefs of my time. Some of them are based on things that were believed in ancient times, which for various reasons people have forgotten about or abandoned. In your time, some of these might be accepted again, or might be regarded as even more quaint than they are today. Perhaps something here will prompt you to look at the world a little differently and to question the common beliefs of your time. I hope so, but if not, at least you may find the beliefs and style of writing 100 years before your time to be amusing. Indeed, it may be that the written word has entirely disappeared in your time and you need a special instrument to translate what I've written. Guess what changes the next century will bring. I've got a little bit there which I'll miss out, just saying a little bit about me and about how I work in computers and how fast the computers were and so on, because I thought they'd find that highly amusing. I retired at age 42 to work on understanding how the universe worked and trying to determine what I call the formula for the universe through a study of cycles. So my life has been very different to the average person before getting into the following topics. And then I've done 5 topics, so I'll just read the first one, which is meditation. Just over 1 year ago, I learned about the past of meditation and attended an intensive 10-day course. On my return, I told my wife that if I kept doing this meditation, then it would entirely change the course of my life. A year later, I see no reason to change that assessment. This technique was discovered and taught by Gautama the Buddha some 2,500 years before my time. Generally, people today think that he started a religion, but I've learned that he was more of a research scientist than what we might think of as a religious prophet. His main objective was to discover how to get out of suffering and gain happiness, and to find how to arrive at the truth about all things. This must be considered a very ambitious task, and yet a very noble one. In his time, it was considered that he achieved this objective and became an enlightened person, and during his life, millions of people took up his practice with very great benefits. The practice as taught today is as near as people get it to the same as it was then. It begins with agreeing to abide by some simple moral principles and making a commitment to stay the course for the full 10 days. This is because the going can get tough and it's not good to quit when this happens. For over 3 days, beginning at 4:30 a.m. each day and for 12 hours per day, the student attempts to do nothing but observe the breath entering and leaving the nostrils and the resulting sensations around the nostrils and above the upper lip. I write attempts to because the first thing that we discover is that we cannot do such a simple task. Every few moments the mind wanders off to think about something that was worrying us last week or that we will do after the course. It doesn't want to do this one simple thing. The teacher describes that the mind is full of chattering monkeys and wild horses with the odd rampaging elephant. The technique then requires that as soon as we notice that the mind has wandered, we should bring it back to the task without any emotional response. We accept that the mind wanders, but we also try to train it to be able to concentrate on a single task. Also, it gradually gets quieter over the few days, and the sensitivity to subtle sensations is increased. Eventually, everyone is able to feel very subtle sensations which we were previously not aware existed. On the 4th day, the newly trained and aware mind is then used to observe the sensations part by part over the entire body. This is a major revelation, for we find that all sorts of things that were previously happening at an unconscious level are now fully conscious. There are many things happening in many parts of the body, and so many different types of sensations. Some of these are rather unpleasant, such as sharp pains, but we try to be equanimous or neutral in our response. That is not easy with pain that seems to be caused by sitting too long, and the pain increases before we're able to just observe it without reacting, and then it gradually begins to subside. What the Buddha discovered is that all of our cravings and aversions, which are the cause of all our suffering, are stored in the body and mind, and that they can be made to arise by this method. If we remain equanimous, then the arising sensations will pass away, but if we allow the old unconscious reactions to occur, then we cause them to be stored away again, so that they continue to arise again, perhaps with new force.
Can we shorten
okay.
a little bit?
Yes, that much more so.
Well, I think because
okay,
we want to hear some others.
Yes, right.
I think that's excellent. Thank you, Ray.
Okay.
Because I think we need to hear somebody
Yes.
else's talk.
O wonder worker, this is a poem. O wonder worker, it is not my work. O wonder worker, far above the utmost effort of our thought, for what thou hast already wrought in this poor woman thou canst see. I thank thee on my bended knee. Cloud guider, make the furrows deep. O soul, put the seed to sleep. O sun, do but the worst and best. O rain, fulfill thy high behest. Then reaper in the autumn eaves, some singing, bringing in the sheaves. Great love, though soft thy ways, or wild, I pass not by my little child. Love is grand, such a beautiful thing. Mightily and sweetly does she order all things. Like a garden, it has to be cultivated, and there are weeds. One gets a shock at what one might have done. What it lacked of insight, but it had to be. Everyone is beautiful in their own way. To see the love in the unlovable. Friendship, oh the comfort, the inexpressible comfort of feeling safe with a person, having neither two-way thoughts nor measure words, but pour them all out, just as they are chaff and grain together, and a faithful hand will take and sift them. Keep what is worth keeping, and with a breath of kindness blow the rest away. Fear is not love. Love in marriage, moderation, a woman holds the reins. Consideration for each other, in sickness and health, learn to say no. I don't know which is the worst, the suffering of the man or the suffering of the woman. There were such good times and some sad, but that's how we grow. Did I get everything too easily, such treasures? The teachings mean so much. My husband gave so much. We had so much going for us. And yet as human beings, many mistakes were made. I would like to be able to point the way for you, dear, to guard you against my mistake. One has limitations. We really teach each other and should be grateful. The hardest lesson of all was coping with the loss of loved ones. One sees the beauty of the lost friends and misses times we had. Lots of beautiful concerts. Oh, the regret, the struggle and the failing. Oh, the days desert and useless years. And again, the same concern is the motive power behind the results to man, a new beginning to purpose adjustment for the future, even when these results are but a less vows, written water blows that beat the air. Never cease to try, never give up. Sometimes someone comes to lighten our burdens, to point the way. And about death, beautiful orchestral concerts, 4 last songs, the spring. In twilight caverns I dreamed long of your trees and blue skies, your fragrance and bird song. Now you lie revealed in glistening splendor, bathed in light like a miracle before me. You know me once more, you beckon me tenderly. My whole body trembles at your divine presence. The garden is in mourning, cool falls the rain upon the flowers. Summer shudders quietly to its end. Leaf after golden leaf drops down from the high acacia tree. Summer smiles, surprised and weary upon the dying dream of this garden. Yet still it lingers by the roses, longing for rest, then slowly closes its weary eyes. Now that I feel the tiredness of the day, my deep longing shall welcome this sunlight night, as a weary child does. Hand cease your tolling, head forget about thinking, for all my senses now are longing to sink themselves in slumber, and the unguarded spirit wants to float on free wings, to that in the magic circle of the night it may live deeply and 1,000-fold. Through
I think you're right. Beautiful to be because I think we want to hear from several. Who else? Yes.
Dear friend, it is with great pleasure to discuss with you today the idea and practice of non-separateness. inspiration that comes to me when I relate to people when I'm in this state can be very ecstatic, and I also notice how it becomes contagious. Sometimes this whole process occurs quite naturally with little effort, requiring sometimes just thought. It seems to be more commonplace these days. The idea of non-separateness is synonymous with the idea of trusting there will always be enough for everyone, for anyone. Everyone being on par with everyone else, even though we shine in different ways, and our inherent connection to everything that is either lived or is living now. Non-separateness in action is generosity and compassion. Ironically, there is more value on individuality as the development of one's special attributes. This is a natural occurrence because the result of this is a greater contribution to the collective. There tends to be a movement to and fro between solitude and involvement with others, both being used to reinforce the practice of individuality and non-separateness, both of which cannot exist alone, but also leading eventually and inevitably towards non-separateness. If this initially sounds like a koan to you, I trust that you have the ability to encompass the full meaning. A benefit of this state is that one does not feel lonely while alone. And in some cases, there is a greater feeling of connection to all life when alone, as one has a better opportunity to sense the life force without the distractions of the artificial world. I want to close this letter to you in the hopes that the gap in time between myself writing this and you reading it does not exist at all. Yours in light and love.
Wonderful. I like that. Hazel.
Which one do you want?
Choose the one.
Dear great-great-grandson Tamarani, you have a strong name, and I'm glad you regard your whakapapa with respect, for I am your bones in the Maori sense. I hear you when you speak at the marae, and I know you well. Now I would like you to consider that although we may not meet physically in your lifetime on earth, we may be drawn together sometime, who knows, in a future life. We may appear in a different form, like putting on a new outfit for the occasion. But the essence of us will remain intact, hopefully though a little wiser from our last earth-time lesson. When you attend a family tangi and women wear green in their hair, it is a sign of the universal life force. The unopened coffin in our midst gives time for the spirit to be fully released as the process of shedding the physical atoms begins. Eventually, the shedding process leads to a period of reflection and rest, and then a return to our source. Our thrust for experience will again lead us to another incarnation, and instead of shedding the layers we need for this, we start to attract and mold them for another lifetime. It makes sense, doesn't it? So you see why I suggest the possibility of us meeting up in another lifetime. Remember always that the essence of you, the God spark of your divinity within you, will always be, forever. Remember, life is just one continuum. Isn't that wonderful? See you then, now.
Very interesting letters. Yes, Kathleen.
To my unknown friend, I wish to talk to you about the concept of oneness. Why, you ask? Because you may find it amusing, or curious, or fascinating to see what a woman of a century ago believes. And, to tell you the truth, there is a good possibility that by writing these things down, as if telling them to someone, I will clarify my own thoughts. So, you see, I have an ulterior motive. But that tells you nothing. You want to know who I am? I'm a student of Theosophy. I've lived probably half of my lifespan and have learnt a good many things, but am very aware that I have many lifetimes believe in oneness, but I keep forgetting it. What's your world like, I asked? Is the planet still ravaged by war and pollution? Do people still hate each other and hurt each other? I can't imagine the world being much different in that way. Though certainly you should have the technological ability to have overcome disease and food distribution problems. Poverty should have been eradicated, yes? Has greed diminished? I hope that you look back at my time and are appalled at the barbarity. The thing is, when I look at all these other people, I really don't want to acknowledge that we're all facets of the one great life. I really just want to wrap myself up in my individualism and to be separate and smug. I love John Donne's work where he tells us no man is an island. And he continues, so ask not for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee. Do you know that piece of writing? It has had and continues to have a profound effect on me, but it is too hard. How can I believe myself one with a murderer or a rapist? I can't even stop myself from being irritated by people who say stupid things. This physical existence is so compelling, so demanding, that it gets in the way of true knowing, the true knowing that I am looking for. I wish to understand that the me I identify so strongly with is simply an expression of the real me. I wish to understand that my body and my feelings and my thoughts and my personality are vehicles for the real me. Sometimes, in the reading of a book or in the explanations of a lecturer, I catch a moment of understanding. Oftentimes, I have brain understanding of oneness and the unity of all, and of being a part of the whole, inseparable. But I forget over and over. And I live my ordinary life without even thinking about it. And I become outraged by injustice and evil instead of consciously working to counter it by my thoughts and actions. And I am thankful that I'm not like these people who commit crimes instead of functioning in true humility. The oneness of life is an easy concept to accept. After all, we can see it in the world around us. One thing affects another. We breathe each other's air. Living trees become wood and paper and become ashes and smoke, which return to the earth and the air. And molecules do things, and atoms, and I don't understand any of that biology or chemistry, but it does all make sense to me. And oneness makes sense. And the stuff HPB says in The Secret Doctrine is impossible to comprehend, but makes sense in a way I can't explain. It's in living it that I run into problems. My good intentions keep falling by the wayside, and I'm half a mile down the road before I realise that once more I've forgotten to try and make oneness a part of my conscious living. I'd like to ask you, my friend, if you have the same difficulties I do. 100 years isn't a long time, really, but quantum leaps may have been made. This current me body will never know. Anyway, I've wandered from my stated purpose of this letter, but that's just the way it happened. Perhaps my story may be of use to you, or to someone you know. Perhaps your difficulties are different to mine, yet the story of my struggle to accept the responsibilities that come with belief may help you in some way. You and I also are one, separated by 100 years, but not separate. The atoms of my physical body have been around the world and back again, and could be the very atoms which currently make up your physical body. All my experiences are part of the great Akashic record, as are yours. I could go on. Rather, I will finish this letter and wish you a life full of searching and truth.
All right, Glenn. Okay, I've got a short one. I'm ashamed these people wrote real letters.
5th of June 1999, to an unknown friend, dear friend, I hope you are not a reincarnation of me. As then I'll been somewhere really writing to myself. Yes, I said reincarnation, to be born on earth again and again. One of my key theosophical ideas. I hope that you are not one of those scientific skeptics, as then you will think this letter completely stupid, not believing in such a thing as God wisdom, theosophy, nor in a life outside the physical body. I hope that you are a woman, as I would love to be chatting up a Sheila 100 years from my time. As Theosophists, we love all of life, as it is a manifestation of the divine. Your world and your life may be so different to mine, which has wars, atrocities, ethnic cleansing, for me, thankfully, only on television. Wherever you are, I wish you all the best. Glad.
I've also just thought about the possibility of writing a letter to yourself 100 years ahead. Not in this letter, but dear unknown friend, I am writing to you from an old house of great charm, built beneath a small extinct volcano called Mount St. John. Today, after lunch, I walked with others from the centre house, up a path that led to steps, and then another path that travelled to the top of this small green mountain. It was a mild winter's day, and as we walked through lush green grass, someone pointed out to us a series of old storage pits used by the Maoris for their kumaras over 100 years ago. Other ridges and hollows formed during their occupation of this unique path were also perfectly retained. From this historic site, we could survey the two harbours spread out below and the sprawling city in its entirety. We walked around the crater rim in a perfect circle, surveying the landscape below from every perspective, recognizing certain landmarks and discovering others. As we walked in the warm wind, discussing the types of trees growing in the crater and around its rim, I was aware that the circular walk on this raised mountain gave me the feeling that I was a part of all I surveyed, and that the concept of wholeness, of oneness, of interconnectedness was to me both obvious and real.
I do. Get out of it, wasn't it?
I'm afraid this is another very short one, but perhaps that was very more big, but I can't emulate Vlad in that. It's rather interesting that I was thinking that it's something to do with the definition of theosophy too. My dear unknown grandchild of many generations hence, I am writing to you in June 1999 in the Theosophical Building in Auckland, New Zealand. You will hopefully be living in a society where wars are a thing of the past, and your ideas will have evolved far beyond the concepts of today. But you will, I hope, be interested in what theosophy means to me now. I will outline 5 concepts in 5 different letters. The first is the universal truth behind all religions. I use the word in the plural as it is customarily understood, but religion comes from Latin re, again, and ligare, to bind or join. So religion is really the process of seeking to be rejoined to the divine creative source from which we came. Different groups called religions have their ideas of the way to this end. But underlying all is spirit, which comes to them from the divine source. So the different religious groups should look within to find this common spirit. What do you think, dear friend, of this concept from the past? It could be simply described as love, which will always link us together. So I send it to you now, until the next time I write. Goodbye, which means God be with you, always. Rocky Cricket.
No, I don't know. I don't write big long letters at all. It's only a few lines. I was thinking of my family here. To my godchild, never forget the child within you as you grow older. Forgive those who think you're being childish or silly, for they have long forgotten the secret passage to the world's hidden domains.
They're all bloody terrible, isn't they?
Long handwriting for me is a bit unusual. I've gotten so used to composing on a word processor that this might be a bit messy. To dear unknown friend or relative, this is a letter, one of perhaps 5, written to you as yet unknown on this planet. It is written in the hope. It is written in the hope that there will be some communication on what to me has been an important, even vital element of my life here as we lead up to the end of this century and the end of the millennium. I'm away from my home at Parramatta in the Wellington region, in the lower half of the North Island, of Aotearoa, New Zealand, and I'm attending a seminar run in Auckland City by the Theosophical Society, the TS as it is known in abbreviated form. This is a worldwide organisation, but with only a small number of members. It was founded over 100 years ago in 1875 to bring to the world what is known as the ancient wisdom, or the ageless wisdom. It would be fascinating to know just how significant these concepts are to you 100 years away from the time this is being written. The TS has always been in my consciousness, having been brought up in a family where both my parents were members. And they had a little bit of brackets there about being vegetarians and things like that too. I might not look at them. The Theosophical Society has provided me and others with some penetrating and enlightening concepts, which I'm going to try to tell you about. They are the most important ones to me as I reflect now during these 3 days of study and learning. The first I shall write about, but not necessarily the first in importance, is that the spiritual side of we humans is the most important part of us. We are spiritual beings having a physical experience. We are not physical beings having a spiritual experience. Which I know is not an original phrase, but I'm going to drop it anyway. It may at times feel that we are mere bones, flesh and blood. However, the TS encourages us to explore 3 great truths, one of which says that our human soul is immortal and its future growth and splendour is limitless. Isn't that wonderful? It can almost be incomprehensible. It is also inspiring, I find. It means we are responsible for our own lives, the controls of our destiny, whatever that is, you may ask. Well, my unknown friend or relative, that is perhaps, going to be moonlighting, another letter and another of the great theosophical concepts. They have uplifted me, encouraged me, led me through sometimes sad and at other times happy events in this life, which has been enriched by the universality of the ageless wisdom. That universality, I think, will be the next subject I will write to you about. So until then, my sincere best wishes and blessings. Aroha nui.
dear friend, today I find myself in a world which appears to have lost its direction. The concern is largely for one's own personal welfare. We find ourselves building around ourselves layers of separateness. Our mind, our feelings, often prisoners. Yet we choose to isolate ourselves even further within the confines of our own automobile, another vehicle, our house, our property, which we rarely share with those around us. We seem to continue to build walls and masks around ourselves. Some of us live in houses with many rooms to ourselves, while others cannot find a bed to sleep on or a crumb to eat. Some of us feast while others starve. We hoard food and watch millions grow hungry, while we sit aside, indifferent to it all. What would it be like in 100 years, my friend? Will humanity have found its humanness? Will we finally see ourselves as one world, one unique expression of divinity? Today, we wait for others to solve our problems of the world, perhaps some government or another. Some even wait for some divine force or incarnation to come and solve our problems for us. Will it still be so in 100 years? Or will we have finally learned that to change the world, we have to change ourselves? Will we see more closely the world as a simple playground for the soul and choose to grow up as children and move along our pilgrimage a little further? My friend, I truly hope we do.
It's a little daunting to come up with some of these wonderful contributions, and I feel a little bit humbled, but I'll give it a go. I have to read glasses because I'm 73 and I need glasses. Sorry about that. This letter is my, dear child, this letter is my gift to you from the time period of the end of the 20th century. I have often wondered about the thoughts and feelings and actions of my forebears, so I'm going to share my thoughts with you. One of the greatest gifts I have received from my elders is the important truth of the teaching of self-responsibility, which incorporates the truths of karma. We are building our own bodies and circumstances each moment of time. We either let it happen unconsciously or we make it happen consciously. When we stop cursing our fate and accept that we are making our own circumstances moment by moment and life by life, we become more balanced and contented at our core. This truth has been bearing itself upon me gradually over time. I become more and more fully aware of its truth. I am now prepared to accept responsibility for my own past actions. I have found that my understanding has gradually deepened, especially over the past 2 years. I am involved in a process of building myself, my soul, which is continuous for the foreseeable future. This is a very positive teaching because it puts the power over my life into my hands. I don't wish to give this power to another person. I am very thankful that I'm in possession of such an empowering truth. I believe I chose my parents before my incarnation, so I do not blame them for any of the circumstances that I find myself in. I have now come to terms with most of what has happened to me in this life.
Perhaps you're my great-great-grandchild. We are strangers, but strangers are friends we haven't met. So I'm writing this letter to you from one spiritual heart to another. Today our calendar says it's the 7th of June 1999, and I'm sitting on my bed balancing a cup of tea on this book. This is the third day of an excellent seminar with Joy Mills from America, arranged by the Theosophical Society. And who are you? Who are they, you may ask? I'm hoping that 100 years from now, the society will still exist, or at least records of it. And you may ask, why did I join it? And to me, it is a society of hope, eternal, sweet, inquiring hope. We speak of the immortality of the soul, how we evolve as soul from life to life. And we say, bodies come, bodies go, the soul lives forever. Perhaps you are my future self. You may be quite amused by this letter. Our civilization may look primitive to you now. I can't even imagine to attempt what your technology is like today. But the technology of the soul has been worked on ever since a human being looked upon a star and wondered and silently asked herself, why was I born? What is it all about? Our lives are not trivial. They are great and demanding adventures. And become strong and be comforted, for your life lessons are necessary to you.